Welcome to our Saturday Simulcast, our last Saturday Simulcast of 2024. I know that everybody's breathing a collective sigh of relief, not only my fellow panelists, but all of you viewers and readers, because this is just a monumental occasion, the fact that it's the last one. But we are going to do a little bit of year in review, look a year ahead, look into our crystal ball of what we guarantee or semi-guarantee will happen in 2025, which we probably won't be accountable because we won't replay this back at the end of 2025 to see if we were right. But Brian, I hear you've got something you want to share, so I'm going to let you start here. I don't know if it's a hot take for 2025 or if you're just going to have some fun with Mike Carmen, but fire away.
Yeah, through the course of this podcast, I just want to make 4 points so that I have one more than the Bears scored this week.
There it is.
All right. I've been waiting on that one for a while.
Were you there last night, Carm?
No, I did not. Spoken from a guy whose team hasn't made the playoffs in a century, so it's okay.
Yes, but I've given up.
Well,
keep watching.
When you do that,
so I didn't go to the game last night, so my white flag has been out for a while.
You know, I was amazed though. I did watch some of that game. How many people were there? I mean,
what else are they doing the day after Christmas?
That may be, but it was raining and hell. I was feeling. I said,
returning their Caleb Williams jerseys to the mall.
Well, I didn't know how Carm was going to do this. After such a monumental 6-3. What was it 6-3 the final yesterday? But the Bears go on the short end of the stick there. But all right, I'll go back to you, Brian. I'm going to start with looking back at 2024. Obviously, the Purdue men's basketball trip to the Final Four was the highlight for Purdue sports, maybe for the decade. But what was your biggest surprise in 2024? What was the thing that maybe surprised you the most? As you look back at the year, and it doesn't necessarily have to be about basketball. And Tom and Mike, get ready because it's coming around the horn to you. So go ahead, Brian. Let me. I'm dying to hear what you have to say here.
Well, I've got two. I only wanted to go first because I wanted to make the Bears joke. So let's just make that clear.
All right.
I didn't necessarily need to go first, but
that's all right.
Obviously, I will tackle the two big stories of the year here so that nobody else has anything to talk about.
That's all right.
I think both were surprising. We'll start with the negative one first. Just how quickly everything fell apart for Purdue football. Obviously, was not something that I think anybody really saw coming. At least it happening this quick, and then just the basketball team. Going to the Final Four might not on the surface look like a surprise because they were one of the preseason favorites to do it. But the fact that they shrugged off what had happened to them beforehand and had all that pressure on them that whole year and actually got it done, I think was one of the great, sports achievements I've covered at Purdue. I don't cover anything but sports, so all the other achievements, it's not my purview. So, apologies to Neil Armstrong, which I didn't cover. But
that wasn't a surprise, though.
I would qualify that as a surprise, just because of the weight that was on those guys through the entire year, and them actually being able to do it was a little bit of a surprise to me, at least. So, that's what I got.
All right, you've taken the top two, but Tom, any side angles to that or thoughts or anything else that surprised you? I have one that didn't. Somebody's going to get to it, but go ahead, Tom. And what surprised you in 2024, if anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess having a two-time National Player of the Year for Purdue basketball was.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but still, man, I mean, just unbelievable to think. Not once but twice to come back and repeat. Just unbelievable. We have to go back, I think, to Ralph Sampson, when I was in high school last time anybody did that. I think just maybe it shouldn't have been a shock, right? The fact that Purdue didn't just lose, but it lost in just spectacularly disastrous fashion.
Yeah.
I mean, we would sit in the press box, Mike, I, and Brian, and Jordan, and just, oh my goodness. When was the last time this or that happened? We used to have to lean on Mike Kramer for that historical take. 66-0, 66-7. I mean, on and on a win. I mean, it was just unbelievable to see the program wind up in the heap that it winded up in. And then I don't know if it was a surprise to see Barry Odom get hired. I guess from an experience standpoint, he checked the boxes. He's a defensive guy, and maybe that shouldn't be a big deal. I guess I thought maybe they would go with an offensive guy. Maybe that was a mild surprise there. So those were a couple of things that I had jotted down when you were talking earlier. I'm sure as we get going here, maybe some other things will pop up. But yeah, front and center, I guess that's what pops out for me.
Mr. Carmen, I can't wait for this one.
Well, you're going to be surprised that there's nothing really great here. I mean, there's I mean, if you look at the surprise part of it, yes, I would agree that football's tanking or whatever they did or whatever they didn't do was probably a bigger surprise because Purdue was coming off 4 wins the year before. And although there was plenty of signs of inexperience on the sideline and other things, no one saw what was coming this year. I mean, it got worse every week and just continued to go downhill until the very end. So, the entire football season kind of surprised me how it played out. And then from the basketball standpoint, it really wasn't surprised. They made the Final Four, and I know Purdue fans in general don't. When you haven't been there in 44 years, you don't expect to go. And as Brian mentioned, coming off what happened the year before, really wasn't a surprise to me because I felt that team did have a pretty, some of those players walked into Purdue with a chip on their shoulder. And when what happened in Columbus, Ohio the year before, that chip grew. And I think they kind of galvanized together and bonded together to make that. From a basketball standpoint, maybe the biggest surprise, and maybe this doesn't rank high in the surprise category, but the seamless transition of Lance Jones into that team and what he did for them. And you're seeing some elements this year that are missing that Lance provided last year. Probably was a surprise from the basketball standpoint because you don't know in this portal age what you're getting a lot. You can research, you can talk, you can do whatever you want, but until it gets out there on the court and those guys kind of blended together, probably surprised me a little bit. And there were really not a lot of low spots in that. I mean, it seemed seamless, and that's a credit to everybody involved. So those are my somewhat surprising, not surprising takes from 2024.
Yeah, I think one that again preface it by a sport that we don't cover, but it did surprise me only because it's kind of an indicative of where we are in this world of NIL, transfer portal, and that of course happened in late December when Chloe Chicoine, 4 volleyball players left, but Chicoine and Eva Hudson left. And I again, not a sport that we cover, but everybody pays attention to where they have, how good that program has been. How they had 2 sellouts in Mackey Arena this year in October. And yet, and it may have also, I'll double that surprise from a couple of days ago, and that is that Chicoine ends up at Louisville and Hudson at Kentucky. I thought for sure they'd go together. Again, knowing nothing more than having no intel, don't cover them closely at all. But that surprised me, and maybe it just hit me in the face a little bit more of what, not what Purdue is up against, but what college sports is up against. It is that everybody's going everywhere. And what was the number of how many football players are in the portal right now, or how many athletes are in the portal? It's a figure that also surprised me. But that one still is stuck a little bit. When I saw that, I agree with everything else that everybody else has mentioned. But when I saw that surprised me, just because of also Dave Shondell has built a culture there that has been very strong. He's a very experienced coach. Yes, they lost to Louisville, but then when the kids like that take off, that would surprise me a little bit. Brian, you had your hand raised, or were you just waving off?
No, the one thing I will say is on one of these broadcasts last week, we discussed this and delved into some speculation about whether money was involved or whether this was simply those kids wanting to go to the Final Four. It was probably a combination thereof.
Right.
But I will say Louisville and Kentucky are two of the more active NIL providers on the women's side of things, from what I can tell. Mike would know better than I could. I just know Kentucky has offered big money to girls basketball recruits before. Yeah. Louisville obviously has brought in a lot of transfers with NIL money, things like that for women's basketball. I assume that would a lot of that horse and booze money would apply to their volleyball program too. So I will defer to Mike on this.
Well, and also Louisville finishes runner-up to Penn State, obviously, and Kentucky's been really good, but they haven't really been a whole lot better, Mike, than Purdue necessarily, right? And Tom, I don't know if you went to the match this year when Kentucky was at Purdue, but I think they played this year. But anyway, guys, pipe in, Mike, or Tom, if anybody else.
No, I mean Purdue beat Kentucky this year in volleyball. Right. I was just going to say, not to volleyball in particular, but this whole premise I know that Purdue is pushing out there with revenue sharing coming. It's like this is going to level the playing field for Purdue, and I've been on record saying no, it won't. I mean, it won't. It just won't. I mean, and we all know what's going to happen after everyone gets their revenue sharing. That there'll be more bags of money dropped to get players to go there, and I just don't. We all know that Purdue's not going to play in that stratosphere. Even when you get past revenue sharing, and I'm sure we'll talk about revenue sharing later as far as what's coming in 2025. But whether it's those players wanted to play in a Final Four or if it was money combination, whatever, just it's another obstacle that Purdue athletics has to overcome to get to where it wants to be and where the AD wants its coaches to be and where it wants its programs to be. That the challenges are still there, and money is not going to fix everything at Purdue and instantly make them a contender in a lot of sports.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, Tom, go ahead.
The thing is, money can't be an instant contender. That's the beauty of the almighty dollar. The days of your past glory, of history mattering, is out the window. The days of you having a barbershop in your locker room are out the window. People want to get paid. And look at SMU and some of these other schools. I mean, again, if you want a good team, it doesn't matter what labels on your helmet, what logos on your helmet. If you got the cash, you can go out and get players. Look at Indiana. Indiana's been spending cash in football, and it's got that big quarterback from Cal. So again, I think it's pretty simple. If you want to play the game, you can play the game. If you don't want to pay, you won't get the best players. End the story. And you're right, Mike. Revenue sharing is great, but it's laughable to think that suddenly, Purdue and Ohio State are both going to be working with $20 million payrolls, and that's going to be it. That's all Ohio State's going to spend. It's ridiculous. So yeah, it is what it is. I mean, that's another big story nationally. Of course, the House settlement this last year, and we saw of course, the Big Ten grow, right? Now we're going out the West Coast as well, was interesting. And I think two guys, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised. The Barry Odom contract, I wrote down 6 years with $39 million. And people I shared that with in the profession all go, wow, man, he got paid, man. He got paid. So Purdue definitely upped its ante there as far as Barry Odom's salary goes. No word yet. There's not going to be a word on the salary pool. But again, then that brings us back to NIL. And where's Purdue in that arena right now? And from the looks of the early transfer portal for Purdue football, they certainly aren't swimming with the sharks here. So again, I guess it doesn't mean just because you spend a lot of money, you're going to necessarily going to win. But it certainly gives you a nice edge, right? Just like in pro sports, just because you can sign all these high-dollar free agents doesn't mean you're going to win championships. But it certainly helps. So yeah, it's a brave new world in college athletics, and we'll see where Purdue settles in and here over the course of time, obviously.
Yeah, and we talked about the fact that the race to June 30th is also a factor here. Now, again, what rules, and we can talk about what the future may hold, and what if any. And I agree with you, the schools with money are going to always have an advantage, but what guardrails are going to be put into place is going to be a fascinating story that will determine whether this can end up being competitive at the end of the day. Because I think that's the other thing, is that we saw firsthand, we being people that cover Purdue or around Purdue, that what happens when you're not competitive. And I still look at things even further down the road, as we all have talked about this, is does Purdue survive in this environment 5 to 6 years from now if it isn't competitive? And obviously there's steps. I agree, Tom, that was a major step in terms of the dollars that were put out for Barry Odom. You just have to hope it works out, that it's going to deliver victories and competitive football in this environment. But it is going to be really interesting between now and June 30th, too, in terms of the Brinks truck being backed up at certain places when it comes to money. It will be an interesting part of that. Brian, did you have something else you wanted to add there? I keep thinking.
Yeah, probably nothing more than the same thing I've said on this broadcast every week for the last 6 weeks or so. But we'll see how effective this new structure is. Purdue has already done its part. I mean, if we want to talk about whether they're playing the game or not, if they have truly earmarked this $20.5 million, that's what they can do. That's all they can do. Everything else that comes with however people make up the difference between what the university can pay and what other people have to pay, that's up to the enforcement structure and all of this. People will find their way around this, as they always have. It just becomes old school cheating again. And whether or not the NCAA can actually enforce this with a court's backing and an actual accounting conglomerate accounting for all of these NIL transactions, I have no idea. But, Purdue's going to have to find a way to kind of make up the difference one way or another. But if they can't, then we're talking about Purdue not getting the kids Purdue doesn't get anyway. And it hasn't really held Purdue back in basketball. In football, Jeff Brom was able to get some kids without, there being over the table money, at least. There was some transactional recruiting involved in that. That was very effective for them. But, Purdue is not a place that has been built on the guys that are going to need maximum money. And there's no reason to think Purdue still can't get good players who Purdue has won with before. And that's just something I don't want us to lose in all of this. That there are still going to be guys Purdue can get under this new structure that Purdue can take care of. If you want guys who want money, you're going to get Nyland Green and C.J. Smith. And how did that turn out? So I just think that, I don't think this is a hopeless situation for Purdue. I do think the new structure can help Purdue. Evening the playing field is a different story, because the playing field has never been even. And the playing field will never be even. So, but that doesn't mean Purdue can't still have some success and have some great players and have some, make some memories, win some big games, things like that.
Yeah, how much more of a go ahead, Mike.
At what point does that shift, though? I mean, what point does that shift when we all know how Matt Painter recruits. He does it very well. But if you polled the upperclassmen in the program right now, and I don't know if they'd tell you for sure, but if they were offered a bag of money to go somewhere else, and as opposed to coming to Purdue and the culture that they have, which one are they going to pick? And as time goes on, how effective will that be without having a little bit more cash? I mean, I get it and I understand it, and it's great for Purdue if they can continue. I just don't know at the level it's going to be able to continue. And I know that they don't recruit guys that want money, but now everybody wants money, and everybody can get money. And I just don't know if it's going to work out long term the way it has worked out for Purdue here recently. When you look down the line, now we don't know what this structure is going to look like in 5 years either, because this could all blow up. It doesn't appear to be sustainable for the long term here. But as of right now, what it's supposed to look like, I just worry about the future for Purdue and being able to compete and stay at the level that they've been at the last few years.
Well, I don't think anybody has the answer to that question yet because we
Yeah.
can't kind of look into the future. But what I can say is Braden Smith could have left after his freshman year from Gonzaga, made $1 million.
Right.
He stayed, and he's probably making about that now legitimately, without it being the booster slush fund that is theoretically going away here soon. Braden Smith has earned his NIL money, has earned his NIL deals, and everybody on that team is getting something because of the way Matt Painter has done NIL. Whether you can do that in football, I have serious questions about that. Trey Kaufman-Wren, I promise you, when Zach-Edey announced he was coming back for his last season at Purdue, I promise you, Trey Kaufman-Wren got tampered with by everybody under the sun. And there were probably offers made to him financially that, he's not the most money-driven individual in the world, best I can tell from having a reasonable professional relationship with him. But money makes a lot of things better. And a lot of people who want to take care of their families, would jump at that. But, none of Purdue guys have. It will catch up with them at some point. If this stuff remains as uncontrolled as it's been the last couple of years, there's no way around Purdue not getting bit by that at some point. But it hasn't yet. And unless we have some sort of data to suggest that the guys Painter picks to play for his program and is able to get with the way he recruits, that those guys are going to be driven by, the stuff that might be out there for them. I think it'd be a pretty pessimistic worldview of you, Carmen, to expect that everything just goes to hell. I think they can keep going as they're going for as long as they can keep going. I mean, I think he understands. He said it publicly that at some point in time they're going to need the portal. And when you need the portal, you need to pay dudes too. At least that's the way it's been. Whether you can get good players out of the portal with the whole, okay, here's what we'll give you as terms of our spread out or revenue sharing money, that remains to be seen. But I think that, this new system, at the very least, takes away a situation where kids would be going from nothing to something. And I think Purdue will take, at least in basketball, will take good care of their guys. I'd be concerned about football where the coach and the general manager have to make these case-by-case calls and decide who to pay, decide what to invest in, things like that. That's a dangerous game on a variety of fronts.
And probably an apples and oranges game too between the two. All right, well, Tom, and I'll go to the football side too. Just the premium on coaching in organization, and obviously Purdue has to hope that Barry Odom is in that mode. It appears he has that ability, and the staff that he's brought together. We've chronicled some of the problems that Ryan Walters had in organization and making decisions. But do you look at that and say this is okay? Maybe that is the reason why $39 million came his way, because he's got to be that organizational guy that can put all the plates together and make it come up to be a competitive football team. Is there a bigger premium on coaching now than there's ever been, especially in football, in your view?
I think Purdue had to overpay to get a guy. I think it's that simple. IU's paying their coach $8-9 million a year now.
Yeah.
Plus he's got $1 million retention bonus or something every year, or something to that effect. So yeah, I think they probably had to overpay to get the guy they wanted. And you never know. Nobody knows if it's going to work out in their line.
Yeah.
They do. I don't care who you are or what sport it is. Nobody knows that this is going to work. It's always a gamble. We'll see, right? I mean, we can look at the coaching staff and gush over it and marvel at all the years of experience and all this and that and think, oh, these guys are going to be great. Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. Like I said, they certainly are more experienced, and we'll see how it goes. I know the one thing everybody has now, at least, is hope. I think that's important. We all have to have hope, and there was no hope left this time last month I think it was November 30th was the IU game. If you can believe it, it's only been 30 days, and look how much has changed in 30 days. Anyway, so now there's hope at least, right? And there's hope. I think people saying, well, now they've got adults running the program. Maybe that's harsh on the old guys, but maybe there's some truth to that too. And the great Ron Walters experiment failed miserably. He's still young. We'll see where he lands eventually in 10 or 15 years. But yeah, we'll see. Like I said, the staff seems good, right? And nice mix of youth. Transfer portal sort of ticking along a little bit here. Got a couple quarterbacks. And yeah, I think Barry Odom, we talked about this when he was hired. I think seems like a good fit. Good fit for Purdue. Kind of guy you'd find sitting in a booth at Arnie's eating a Stromboli, talking to Brad Cohn about the weather.
Yeah.
Very approachable guy and a blue collar guy, tough guy. And so yeah, it's just kind of nice for fans to have some hope and boy, I tell you what, your head's spinning, isn't it, with this roster? The comings, the goings, it's just dizzying, really. And you guys talked about where this is all going. I hope to God that there's millions of people smarter than me figure out some type of a structure with collective bargaining so we can get some type of organization to these rosters so there's not this churn, this tumult year after year. I mean, it's it is hard to be a fan, honestly. I know people just like cheering for the helmet, but my God, the days of fostering, watching the kid grow through a program are out the window. It's kind of sad. Like Vinny Sutherland 4 years, Drew Brees 4 years. I mean, those days are gone. At least seemingly gone. And I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too philosophical, or who cares? Just move along, old man. Right? This is how it is now. Get used to it. But it's just too bad. It's too bad that the days of developing relationships with people, watching them grow, looks like they're seemingly over here.
Unless they get.
I think people like to root for people they kind of know. People, that's what's the whole idea about getting to know people. Then you have something more invested in them. These guys are just like a turnstile. These guys are gone. They're gone in 6 months. Anyway, that is what it is. But I hope someday they get some type of structure where there's a little bit of continuity in these rosters year to year.
I got to think contracts have got to be down the road. Okay, now, all right, we'll go to our next phase of this, and that is what will surprise you in 2025, or you can just make your hot take for 2025. What will happen in 2025? Carm, I'll start with you since you shook your head. You have to be careful when you do that here. Is it you look very confident in your answer? Then I'll go to Brian. But Mike, what do you think?
Well, it may not be the boldest prediction, but Purdue football will be 2-0, and then
okay.
They'll double their win total from last year. And that USC game will be on a Friday night, and they'll have a packed Ross-Ade for Barry Odom's first marquee game. It'll be on Fox, and won't have the number one crew, but it'll be on Fox. It'll be a Friday night game, and you'll have a lot of buzz around the football program at that point. I don't even know what their roster is going to look like. I don't even know how many players they're going to have. I don't know who can do what. I don't know if any of these guys can actually coach. You asked for a hot take, and that's
a good one.
I mean, it's not. It's kind of clear, but still, I think as Tom mentioned, I mean, everything's just more organized, and I think you'll have that. The sideline will be much better. You have a guy that's done it before, and that would have led to a couple wins this year. If that was the case. So yeah, 2-0, USC coming to town Friday night, packed stadium, and let it roll.
All right, that's good. That'll be a big one. Brian, what say you?
First off, I want to say that I think Barry Odom's got a chance to succeed at Purdue, in part because I don't think the most impressive thing he did at UNLV was just winning. I think it was winning how he won. I mean, he won 2 years in a row with 50 newcomers on his roster.
Yeah, that's unbelievable. Yeah.
That's the game now. I mean, he's going to have, I don't know how many this year. Tom would know better than me if Tom's been able to keep count. But my answer is I think Purdue basketball is going to win the Big Ten this year. I don't know if that should surprise anyone. They're the preseason favorite, but I think these 4 non-conference losses or these 3 non-conference losses and the Big Ten road opener loss have kind of been a foreign feeling to people and probably taken fans off the scent of what is a really, really, really good team still. And I think Purdue's going to be fine. And I think Purdue's going to be fine this year. And I think they got a chance to be really, really good next year. But I think he's going to have to go into the portal again after this season. I think he probably would agree with me as of this point in time, but I obviously can't speak for him. But I do think Purdue's going to win this Big Ten title, and I think they'll have a hell of a chance next year to win the Big Ten title as well, which would make it, 4 in a row, 5 in a row?
Yeah. 4, right?
4.
4 in a row. So
that's
a good hot take because everybody's down on, not everybody, but people are just the size of the losses. It's going to be really interesting to see. One advantage Purdue does have, maybe 2, is that in theory it starts out a little bit easier. You got your one of your 2 road games that you will be a favorite in, at least January 2nd at Minnesota, though. It's always tough on the road in the Big Ten. Of course, Northwestern comes to West Lafayette on the 5th. Tom Deanhart, fire away, my friend. What say you is your crystal ball for 2025, or what will surprise you? I'll let you even go with that since Carmen and Brian took all the good stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. Awesome. let me take a drink of my Kool-Aid.
What flavor of Kool-Aid is that?
Chocolate. There you go.
Purdue's going to go 6-6 and go to the Motor City Bowl and play Eastern Michigan. How about that?
All right, I like that.
Is it still called the Motor City Bowl?
I'm not sure. I'm
still
things change every year.
Motor City / Little Caesars Bowl.
They changed every name to every. I can't even tell any of the games this year except for the Pop-Tart. That's the only one I can.
PC Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all right. That's a pretty hot take. Yeah. Well, we get that. Well, that, and they could have a Union Club Hotel. They could do one too.
There you go.
Especially when they build those locations. If you want that. Yeah.
And another pleasant surprise this year. Not that they're a sponsor, but the return of Bruno's Pizza.
Yeah. Has anyone had one yet at the new place? I have yet. You have. No. So were you able to get one in good? I mean, did you order online, or did you go pick it up, or did you call them? Because I know early on they were having some challenges with that, but they've got their system worked down. I assume by now. It looked like a good experience for both of you based on your facial expressions. Is that true?
My cat Orlando delivered his, I think.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
My wife did it. She called. They answered.
They do.
It was piping hot. So.
And she remitted funds, and they gave her a pizza.
Correct.
And Tom, your experience was good. I haven't done it yet. I
gotta eat.
Brian, you haven't.
I have not yet.
Yeah.
No offense, Orlando. I just haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah, they're doing okay. I think every time I go there, there's people out the door. It seems like every time I drive by it, but it's not too far from my home. But all right, gentlemen, now that we've laid it all out for 2025 and back at 2024, we thank you guys. I said I'd keep this to a half hour. We're gonna be about at that level, but we appreciate you all very much. Appreciate our viewers, our listeners, all of you. And as we look ahead to 2025, I want to thank the Union Club Hotel. Also, like I said, Brian said maybe that'll be the surprise of 2025, but they will have another location eventually. We appreciate the folks there. And we look forward to Brian. Brian will get the year off good on January 2nd as Purdue takes on Rutgers. Not Rutgers. He'll be up in Minneapolis.
Minneapolis,
screwed up. They're playing,
and then the 2 West schools.
Yeah, so you'll have a busy first few weeks of January. Tom has been busy as heck trying to keep track of all this stuff. Carm and I are just out here twiddling our thumbs. So Carm's got a lot of women's hoops. The Iowa Hawkeyes are coming into town tomorrow.
They are?
Are the women?
Yeah.
No, or they already happened?
No, it's going. They have to play out there.
Oh, it's out there. So you don't have to worry. You can just watch them pull that big upset from on the road. So
they still have Caitlin Clark, right?
All right, gentlemen. Thanks.
You said that. I didn't.
No, I think she's. Yeah.
Your bold prediction.
I think she graduated. I think she went on. Yeah, that Purdue will beat Iowa. That would be a big one. So for Katie Gerald's and company. All right. Thanks again to all of you for watching and listening, and we will see you on the next weekend in some form. Brian will be coming back from Minneapolis, but we'll figure out a time to do our Saturday simulcast as we look. We'll be knee deep in 2025 by then. So have a great New Year. Happy New Year to everybody. And thanks again for joining us on our GoldandBlack.com Saturday simulcast.